Patrons, this is the pick of the week, or the weekly segment where I decide one book that I think you should pick up from in-stock trades or cheap graphic novels to add to your pull list. This week, of course, it's going to be Mark Waid's Daredevil run. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mark Waid's Daredevil run was a book that came out last week. Why are you recommending it this week? Well, because of the fact that there's really nothing else to recommend this week. It's a super light week, and Mark Waid's Daredevil run happens to be one of my favorite runs on the character of all time. Mark Waid does a few really interesting things here. First off, he gets rid of the grim, dark storytelling that has plagued the book for years. We're talking about, since like Frank Miller days. He gets rid of all that. He really goes back to the roots of the character, where the character was more swashbuckling, he was more fun, and you see that right from the first few pages where Daredevil interrupts a mob boss's wedding and he kisses the bride. What's also great about this run is that Mark Waid does not shy away from the fact that Daredevil has a very dark past. In fact, he puts a lot of those elements to the forefront. He tackles Daredevil's depression head on. As somebody who has struggled with depression and mental illness his whole life, I can certainly relate to some of the more darker and more bleak moments of this run, despite the fact that it's a fairly optimistic book. This book also features one of my favorite one-shot issues involving a set of blind kids and a school field trip that Matt takes them on. Now, there's a giant snowstorm and the bus crashes and the bus driver ends up dying and Matt is gravely injured. The kids are the ones that actually end up helping Matt out. It's one of the most beautiful and poignant stories that I think I've ever read of the character, and it actually kind of brought a bit of a tear to my eye after reading it. What Mark Waid also does that I really love is that he makes Foggy Nelson more of a complete character. Foggy Nelson isn't just a side character that, Matt deals with him when he has to deal with him, and he deals with court cases and things like that. No, in certain ways, this is also Foggy's run as well, because something tragic happens to Foggy about halfway through this book, and that permeates throughout the rest of the series in a lot of different ways. I don't want to give anything else away, but suffice to say, it's a really tragic thing, and it makes you really feel for the character, and the character really grows, and he really does mature in a way that I did not see coming. Art duties in here are handled by some of the top talented artists in the industry right now. Marcos Martin, Emma Rios, Chris Samney, Paulo Rivera, who for me steals the show out of almost every single one of them. Seriously, wait until you see how he's able to depict Daredevil's senses. It's a really unique and interesting way that I don't think I've ever seen done by pretty much any of the other artists that have tackled this character. Mark Waid really didn't have a solid artist until he partnered up with Chris Samney. Chris Samney didn't really get his start in comics. In fact, he actually started in film, namely working on the film Atlantis. If you were a kid that grew up in the 2000s and the 90s, you've seen this film. Chris Samney's art style is best compared to Darwyn Cooke's, and I think that has a lot to do with the animation background because, like Darwyn Cooke, Chris Samney worked in animation. They both did it when they first started, and it translates well to the page. Retailing for $50, you are getting over 27 issues of some of the best comics that have been published in the past 5 years. There are a few dissenters out there that say, it's a bit of an overrated run. I prefer the darker tone. That's perfectly fine, but I wanted something a bit more optimistic from this character, and I'm always looking for more fun books. Maybe that's because I'm starting to get older and I'm not as grim dark as I used to be in my youth, and I'm trying to look at things more optimistically, but for me, this is hands down one of the best modern runs on a character that I have ever read. Thanks once again, patrons. Your support is always appreciated. I love every single one of you, and thank you for keeping this channel alive with your donations, with your time, with your money, with every single like, with every single subscribe, with every single share, and I will speak to you sometime this week. Love you. Bye.